In a small village, there lived a man named Obi and his wife, Amaka. They had been married for many years, and together they had 7 daughters, each as bright and lovely as the one before. Despite the love Amaka poured into their family, Obi's frustration grew. He had always dreamt of a son to carry on his family name and began to place the blame on Amaka, his wife. Outside their little house, Obi and Amaka were arguing loudly. Some neighbors were passing by, watching them, but Obi didn't seem to care. He was too upset. "Amaka," Obi shouted, "I asked for a son, but you have given me 7 daughters. Why can't you give me a boy?" Amaka felt hurt. "Obi, I cannot choose if we have a boy or girl. It's not something I control. I love our children. They are blessings." Obi crossed his arms and shook his head. "A man needs a son to carry on his name. Girls are nice, but they aren't enough. You should focus on your duties, take care of the house, cook, clean. Women belong in the kitchen." Amaka felt anger bubbling up. "Obi, our daughters are smart, kind, and hardworking. They can do anything a boy can do. They will make us proud one day. A daughter can be just as valuable as a son." Obi fell silent for a moment, surprised by her words. He didn't know how to respond. Looking around, he saw the neighbors staring, and slowly he felt a little ashamed. Amaka took a deep breath and spoke softly. "Our daughters are a gift, Obi. Let us be thankful and raise them with love." As Obi and Amaka argued outside their house, a man named Patrick was passing by. He was wealthy and lived in the city and had come to the village to visit a friend. Hearing their voices, he stopped to listen, feeling sorry for Amaka and curious about what was going on. Stepping closer, Patrick said, "Excuse me. I couldn't help but hear your argument. What's the trouble here?" Obi sighed, explaining his frustration. "Patrick, I have 7 daughters, but I wanted a son. I feel like my daughters can't do what a son could. I'm disappointed." Patrick shook his head with a gentle smile. "Children are a blessing, Obi, whether they are boys or girls. I never had the chance to have children or a wife myself. Sometimes I feel very lonely." Obi and Amaka were surprised by his words, realizing the value of their family. Patrick went on, "Your daughters could have great opportunities, even in the city. If you allow, I would like to take 2 of them with me. They can go to school, learn new things, and help me in my home." Obi's face brightened. "Yes, Patrick, I agree. It would be good for them to go with you." Amaka felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, knowing this could be a wonderful chance for her daughters. "All right," Patrick said, smiling. "I will return in 2 days to take them with me." With that, Patrick waved goodbye and continued on his way, leaving Obi and Amaka to think about the big change that was coming to their family. As Patrick left, Amaka turned to Obi, her face red with anger. "Obi, you are being very stupid. How can you think of giving our daughters to a stranger just for money? That's not safe." Obi frowned at her. "Shut up, you lazy woman. Your daughters are useless, just like you. I'm tired of taking care of all of them. I wish I could sell them." Amaka felt hurt by his words. "Obi, they are our children. They deserve love and a good future. They are not useless. They have dreams." Obi waved his hand angrily. "They are all girls. They belong in the kitchen. They should learn to cook and clean. That's all they need to do." Amaka shook her head. "That's not true. They can do anything they want. They can go to school and have jobs. Just because they are girls doesn't mean they are less important." Obi crossed his arms and looked away. "I don't care. I just want a son. I'm tired of this life." Their argument filled the air, and both felt frustrated. Amaka wanted to fight for her daughter's future, but Obi was stuck in his old ideas and could not see how special their family was. 2 days later, Patrick returned to the village, eager to take Obi and Amaka's daughters to the city. As he approached, Obi called him over to the side for a private conversation. "Patrick," Obi said, glancing around to ensure no one was listening, "I have something important to discuss. My twin daughters are only 15, but if you want, you can marry one of them." Patrick's eyes lit up. He had always preferred younger girls, and this seemed like a good opportunity. "Really? That sounds great. I'd be interested in marrying one of them." Obi felt a sense of control and excitement. "Perfect, but I expect a lot of money for this. You'll need to pay me a hefty bride price." Patrick nodded, eager to make the deal. He pulled out a large sum of money and handed it to Obi. Obi felt a thrill at the sight of the cash, imagining how it would solve some of his problems. "Now, you have to promise me one thing," Obi said, lowering his voice. "Don't tell Amaka that I accepted money for our daughters. If she finds out, she will be very angry, and I want to keep this between us." "I promise," Patrick replied, looking serious. "I won't say anything." With the money in his pocket, Obi felt a rush of power. He thought about how it would help him and felt no guilt about the decision he was making. Once they arrived in the city, Patrick gathered the girls, Mara and Clara, in a small room. Mara, the elder sister, looked around with curiosity and a bit of excitement, while Clara, the youngest, clung to her side, feeling both nervous and eager for their new life. But Patrick's face was stern. "Listen to me," he said, looking at each of them. "Your parents have sold you to me. You are not allowed to go to school, use phones, or make friends. Your only job here is to cook, clean, and satisfy me." The girls were shocked. They exchanged worried glances, unable to believe what they were hearing. "Sold us? But we thought we came to the city for a better life," one of the twins exclaimed. Obi shook his head. "No, this is your life now. You will do as I say. There is no school for you, no friends, and no fun. Just work." Tears filled the girls' eyes as they realized their dreams of a brighter future were crushed. They had hoped to go to school, make friends, and explore the city. Instead, they felt trapped. Patrick shook his head, unmoved. "No, this is your life now. You will follow my rules. No school, no friends, no fun. Only work." Tears filled Clara's eyes. "We don't want this. We want to go back home." Patrick's expression turned harsh. "Home? There is no going back. You belong to me now, and if you disobey, there will be consequences." Mara wrapped her arms around Clara, trying to comfort her, though she felt just as frightened. The dreams they had of going to school, exploring the city, and making new friends were shattered. They felt trapped, powerless, and heartbroken as they realized their hopes for a brighter future had been stolen. Patrick called the security man over and gave him strict instructions. "Listen carefully," he said firmly. "I don't want Mara or Clara leaving this house, no matter what. Keep the gates locked and don't let them talk to anyone outside." The security man nodded. "Yes, sir. I'll make sure they stay inside." Patrick's face was stern as he continued. "If they try to leave or ask for help, you stop them. They are not allowed out of this house, understand?" "Yes, sir," the security man replied, understanding the seriousness in Patrick's voice. Soon, Patrick began buying expensive gifts for Mara, jewelry, clothes, and perfumes. But Mara wanted nothing to do with him or his gifts. When she refused to accept them, Patrick grew frustrated. "Mara," he said, narrowing his eyes, "you are my wife now. You should be grateful for these gifts." Mara glared at him. "Your wife? I never agreed to be your wife, and I never will. You're old enough to be my father. I don't want anything from you." Her words struck him hard, and his face turned red with anger. "How dare you speak to me that way, you ungrateful girl? You're just the daughter of a poor, greedy man who sold you off. You should feel lucky I even look at you." But Mara stood her ground, refusing to back down, her heart filled with defiance. She knew she was trapped, but she promised herself she would never let him control her spirit, no matter how hard he tried. Mara went inside and sat on her bed, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe how trapped and alone she felt. Just then, Clara walked in and saw her sister crying. "Mara, what's wrong?" Clara asked, sitting down beside her. Mara wiped her tears and looked at her younger sister. "Patrick, he told me I'm his wife and tried to give me fancy gifts. I don't want anything from him, Clara. I don't want to be with him." Clara looked at her with surprise. "But Mara, it's just a gift. Why didn't you just take it?" "I would have." Mara blinked, shocked by her sister's answer. "Are you serious, Clara? You think I should just take his gifts and let him call me his wife?" Clara nodded. "Yes. This is the life I always dreamed of. Fancy things, a big house, and someone who will take care of us. Why not just accept it?" Mara couldn't believe her ears. "Well, if that's what you want, you can have him. I don't care. I just want him to leave me alone." Clara's eyes lit up with excitement. Are you serious, Mara? You don't want him at all? Mara shook her head firmly. No, Clara, I don't want him. I don't want his gifts, his house, or anything he tries to give me. I just want him to stay away from me. Clara sat quietly for a moment, thinking about Mara's words. Mara turned away, still feeling trapped, but determined to stand her ground. She knew what she wanted, and no amount of gifts or promises could change her mind. Back in the village, Amaka learned the shocking truth about what her husband, Obi, had done. She had thought that Patrick was taking their daughters, Mara and Clara, to the city for a better future. But then she overheard some villagers talking about how Obi had accepted a large sum of money from Patrick for one of their daughters to be his wife. Amaka's heart raced with anger and sadness. She rushed home to confront Obi. "How could you do this?" she shouted, her voice filled with emotion. "You sold our daughters to Patrick. I thought they were going to have a better life. I thought they would learn and help around the house. How could you lie to me like this?" Obi crossed his arms and glared at her. "Shut up, you lazy woman. I am the man of this house. What I say stands." Amaka felt tears welling up in her eyes. "But Obi, they are just children. How could you let this happen to them? They are our daughters. They deserve better." Obi shrugged, not caring. "They are girls. I don't have to explain myself to you. I got money for them, and that's what matters. You should be grateful." Amaka was shocked. "Grateful? For what? Selling our daughters? Do you even care about their happiness?" Obi's face hardened. "I care about providing for this family. Money is what matters in this world. If they want to come back, they can, but they are with Patrick now." Amaka felt her heart breaking for Mara and Clara. She wanted to protect them from this terrible situation. "You don't understand what you've done, Obi. You've put them in danger. What if they need our help? We should bring them back." Obi shook his head, his expression cold. "It's too late for that. They are gone, and there's nothing we can do. Just accept it." Amaka's heart raced as she decided to call Patrick. She couldn't sit back and do nothing while her daughters were in danger. She picked up her phone and dialed his number, hoping he would listen to her. When Patrick answered, Amaka's voice trembled with emotion. "Patrick, please, you have to bring Mara and Clara back. They are my daughters, and I'm begging you to return them home." Patrick's tone was cold and mocking. "Oh, look who it is, the poor ugly woman begging for her daughters. You think I will just return them to you? You must be joking." Amaka felt a chill run down her spine. "They are just children. You can't keep them like this. They deserve to be with their family." Patrick laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "Listen carefully, Amaka. If you ever call me again, I will make sure you are locked up forever. You will never see your daughters again. They are mine now. You have no power here." Amaka felt tears streaming down her face. "Please, Patrick, you don't understand how much they mean to me. You can't treat them like this." He cut her off, his voice harsh. "I don't want to hear your sob story. You should have thought about this before your husband sold them to me. Now you're nothing but a poor, ugly woman who has no say in this." With that, he hung up the phone, leaving Amaka feeling hopeless and scared. She knew she had to find a way to get her daughters back, but now it seemed more difficult than ever. Since Mara refused Patrick's advances, he turned his attention to Clara. Clara was younger and more impressionable, and when Patrick began showering her with expensive gifts, she couldn't help but be excited. He brought her beautiful dresses, sparkling jewelry, and delicious food from fancy restaurants. Clara felt like a princess. "Look at all these amazing things I have," Clara exclaimed one day, showing off her new clothes to Mara. "Patrick is so generous." Mara felt a mix of anger and worry. She couldn't believe her sister was accepting gifts from the man who had trapped them in the city. "Clara, you shouldn't be with him. He's not good for you. He's much older and only wants to use you." But Clara just laughed, brushing off Mara's concerns. "Why do you care, Mara? He treats me like a queen. I don't understand why you rejected this handsome, caring man. He takes me out to expensive hotels and restaurants. This is the baby girl lifestyle I always wanted." Mara shook her head in disbelief. "This isn't a lifestyle, Clara. It's dangerous. You think he cares about you? He just wants to control you. He won't let you go back to school or have real friends. You'll be trapped." Clara crossed her arms defiantly. "You're just jealous because you don't want to accept his gifts." You could have all this too if you just opened your heart to him. You're making a big mistake. Mara felt a deep sadness for her sister. She wanted Clara to understand that life wasn't just about fancy clothes and expensive meals. It was about freedom, happiness, and being with people who truly cared. I don't want any of that if it means being with someone like Patrick. I want us to be free and happy. Clara rolled her eyes, dismissing Mara's words. You're missing out, sis. I'm going to live my best life, and I don't care what you think. As the days went by, Patrick continued to spoil Clara with gifts. He took her out to fancy dinners and bought her everything she wanted. Clara was thrilled, feeling like she was finally living the dream she had always wished for. Soon, with Patrick's money, Clara began sending her parents gifts. She bought beautiful clothes, shiny jewelry, and even some money to help them out. Every time a package arrived at their doorstep, Amaka's eyes sparkled with joy. Look at these lovely clothes, Amaka exclaimed one day, holding up a bright dress. Clara is so thoughtful, and this jewelry is gorgeous. She beamed with pride, forgetting all the worries she once had about her daughters. With each new gift, Amaka felt more and more grateful to Patrick. She didn't think about the truth behind Clara's situation. She only saw the nice things her daughter was sending home. Whenever Patrick called, Amaka's tone changed completely. "Hello, Patrick. How are you?" she would say warmly. "Thank you for everything you've done for my family. We really appreciate it." Patrick enjoyed the attention. He loved hearing Amaka express her gratitude, as it made him feel powerful. He would chuckle and reply, "Of course, Amaka. Clara deserves the best, and I'm happy to provide for her." Soon, news began to spread in the village that 15-year-old Clara was now married to a man old enough to be her father. The gossip flew from one neighbor to another, and it didn't take long for it to reach Amaka. One day, a noisy neighbor named Ngozi came over, her voice loud and filled with anger. "Amaka, can you believe what people are saying? Your daughter is married to that foolish old man. How could you let your husband sell her like that? It's shameful." Amaka felt her blood boil at Ngozi's words. "You don't know anything, Ngozi. Mind your own business. Clara is happy and living a life full of gifts and luxury. She's experiencing things you can only dream of." Ngozi shook her head in disbelief. "Happy? You call that happiness? A child married to an old man? It's wrong, Amaka. You should be ashamed of yourself for allowing this to happen." But Amaka stood her ground, crossing her arms defiantly. "You don't understand. We are finally living a good life. Clara sends us money and nice things. I'm proud of her." The neighbor frowned, her expression serious. "Money doesn't matter if your daughter is suffering. This isn't a life for a young girl. She deserves a chance to grow, to learn, and to be with someone her own age." Amaka rolled her eyes, dismissing Ngozi's concerns. "What do you know about happiness? My family is doing better than ever. You will never experience this kind of life, so stop talking about things you don't understand." With that, Amaka turned her back on Ngozi, refusing to listen to any more of her words. The neighbor left, shaking her head in disappointment. Back in the city, Patrick was treating Mara poorly. He often belittled her, trying to manipulate her into accepting his advances. "You're just a small girl," he would say, looking at her. "I know you are more beautiful and intelligent than your sister. Why can't you let me be your man and spoil you? You could have everything you've ever dreamed of." Mara felt a mix of anger and sadness at his words. She could see the way he tried to use compliments to get what he wanted. "You're foolish, just like my parents," she shot back. "I will not have anything to do with you, over my dead body." Patrick's expression darkened, and his voice turned icy. "Okay then, be ready to die, you ungrateful child of a nobody." Mara felt a shiver run down her spine at his threatening words. She knew Patrick could be dangerous, but she refused to let him control her or make her feel afraid. "I am not afraid of you," she shouted defiantly. "I will never be yours." Patrick stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just refuse me? I have given you gifts and brought you to this city. I can take it all away in an instant. You should be grateful for my attention." "I don't want your gifts," Mara replied. "I don't care about fancy clothes or money. I want to be free. I want to go back to my family." Patrick scoffed, clearly frustrated. "Your family? They sold you to me. They didn't care about you, so why should I?" His voice was harsh, trying to break her spirit. Mara took a step back, feeling tears prick at her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of him. They may have made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I have to accept your twisted version of love. I deserve more than this. Patrick laughed, a cruel sound. You're just a girl who thinks she knows better. You're not special, Mara. You're just a pawn in this game. Accept your fate, or it will only get worse for you. Mara felt a surge of determination. You may think you have power over me, but I will not be your pawn. I will find a way to escape. I will not let you win. Patrick looked at her, his frustration boiling over. You're making a big mistake, Mara. You don't know who you're dealing with. I can make your life a nightmare if you keep resisting me. With that, he turned away, leaving Mara alone with her thoughts. She felt scared, but deep down she also felt brave. She would not let Patrick break her spirit. Months later, Clara began feeling very sick. Worried, Patrick took her to the hospital, where the doctor gave them surprising news. Clara was pregnant. Clara was overjoyed, thinking this might bring her and Patrick closer. She imagined he would be excited and proud, and that they might finally be a real family. But Patrick's reaction was nothing like she expected. He looked at her coldly and said, I don't want children. You were only for fun. I never planned to have a child with you. Clara's heart sank as his words shattered her hopes. Patrick, determined to keep his life as it was, paid the doctor a huge sum of money to terminate the pregnancy. He didn't care about Clara's wishes or dreams, he only cared about himself. Sadly, after the procedure, Clara's condition worsened. 2 days later, her body could not recover, and she passed away in the hospital. When Mara heard the news, she was devastated. Her beloved sister, her only friend in the city, was gone. She cried bitterly, heartbroken by the loss. Patrick barely looked at her grief-stricken face. Instead, he coldly picked up the phone and called her father, Obi. Obi, Patrick said calmly, I have sad news. Clara fell very ill, and she didn't make it. Obi's voice was full of shock. What? How come you never called us before it got so serious? Patrick replied, I didn't want to disturb you. It all happened so fast. Without any further explanation, Patrick arranged for Clara's body to be taken back to the village for burial. He never allowed Mara to attend her own sister's funeral, afraid she might run away if she returned to the village. Left alone, Mara felt her sadness transform into a deep hatred for Patrick. She couldn't believe how cold and selfish he was, a man who had taken everything from her and her sister. She called him a murderer and shouted, You are a fool if you think I would ever love someone like you. You're an old, weak man, and I despise you. Patrick, hoping to keep Mara quiet, tried to bribe her with gifts, but nothing could change how she felt. One morning, Ngozi, the noisy neighbor, came storming into Amaka's house, her voice loud with anger. Amaka, don't you know you're very foolish? How could you let Patrick, a useless, heartless man, bring your daughter's body back to you without asking a single question? Are you not even curious about what happened to her? No doctor's report, no autopsy to find out the cause of her death. Amaka felt embarrassed and didn't know what to say. She looked away, avoiding Ngozi's angry gaze. And your greedy husband, Obi, he must be the most foolish of all, Ngozi continued, shaking her head. To trust that man, to let him take your girls, and now he just accepts Clara's death like it's nothing. Have you both lost your senses? Amaka began to speak. Ngozi, please, we were told she was sick. Patrick said it happened so quickly. But Ngozi interrupted her, furious. Sick, and you just believed him. Do you even care what really happened to Clara, or are you too blinded by the little gifts Patrick gave you? Think, Amaka, this man took your daughter, and now she's gone, just like that. Don't you see something is terribly wrong? Amaka's face turned pale. Deep down, she began to feel a terrible doubt about everything. When Obi came home that evening, Amaka nervously shared what Ngozi had told her. Obi, she began, Ngozi thinks we should question Patrick about Clara's death. She said it doesn't make sense, that he just brought her body back without any explanation. Shouldn't we try to find out more? Obi waved his hand dismissively. Amaka, stop listening to that noisy woman. Ngozi just loves to gossip. I trusted Patrick with our daughter. He's a noble man, responsible and wealthy. Why would he ever harm Clara? He wouldn't do such a thing. But Obi, Amaka's voice trembled. What if she's right? What if something happened to Clara that we don't know about? Obi's expression hardened. Enough, Amaka. Patrick is a good man. He cared for Clara, and he even covered all the expenses for her burial. You should be grateful, not suspicious. Amaka fell silent, but her heart felt heavy. Deep down she knew Ngozi might have a point, but Obi refused to listen. He was too focused on the trust he had in Patrick, too stubborn to see any other possibility. Feeling annoyed by Ngozi's interference, Obi decided to go and speak with her husband directly. He found Ngozi's husband outside their home and walked over, his face stern. Listen, Obi said firmly, you need to tell your wife to stay away from my family. She's been spreading nonsense about my daughter's death and making my wife doubt my decisions. I don't appreciate her meddling in our business. Ngozi's husband looked surprised. I'm sorry, Obi, said Ngozi's husband. Ngozi can be outspoken. I'll speak to her about it. She didn't mean any harm. Sometimes she gets carried away. Obi's expression stayed cold. She better stay out of my family's business. If she keeps interfering, I will have Patrick handle things. You know he's not someone you want as an enemy. Ngozi's husband took a deep breath. There's really no need for that, Obi. I'll make sure Ngozi doesn't involve herself with your matters again. She'll understand it's not her place. Good, Obi replied. This better be the last time I hear her name in my family's affairs. Make it clear. You have my word, said Ngozi's husband. It won't happen again. With that, Obi turned and walked away, feeling confident that he had put an end to the issue for now. Patrick grew more desperate as Mara continued to refuse his advances. Instead of giving up, he began a cruel and disturbing plan. Each evening he would mix something strange into her food or drink, waiting until Mara began to feel drowsy and sleepy. As the drug took effect, her eyelids would grow heavy, and before she knew it, she would drift off, unable to stay awake no matter how hard she tried. In the mornings, Mara would wake up feeling strangely uncomfortable, as if something was wrong, but she couldn't quite remember anything specific. Her body ached in ways she didn't understand, and there was a growing sense of confusion and sadness that weighed on her. At first, she thought it was just the stress of her situation, living in a city far from home, having lost her sister Clara, and dealing with Patrick's cold, controlling behavior. But as time passed, Mara noticed that the strange feelings and the exhaustion were happening too often, and it frightened her. She would go to bed feeling in control, only to wake up with pieces of her memory missing, feeling even more lost. One day, as she sat by the window, lost in her thoughts, Mara tried to make sense of what was happening. She thought about the promises Patrick had made, how he'd told her and Clara they'd be in the city for a better life. But instead, everything had turned into a nightmare. Clara was gone, and Mara was left alone with this man who was growing more dangerous by the day. Mara's heart felt heavy with grief and anger. She missed her family and wondered if they even knew what was happening to her. She thought of her father, Obi, and her mother, Amaka, hoping they hadn't forgotten her. But she also wondered if they would even believe her if she ever got a chance to tell them the truth. Soon Mara began feeling very sick. She was tired all the time, dizzy, and sometimes even felt like she might faint. She tried to tell Patrick, hoping he would take her to a doctor. But Patrick just looked at her strangely and said, "I'll get you a pregnancy test." Mara's eyes went wide with shock. "Pregnancy test? Why would I need that?" she asked. "I haven't been with anyone, so it's impossible." Patrick didn't listen to her concerns. He just handed her the test and said coldly, "Just take it, Mara. Do what I say." Feeling scared and confused, Mara did as Patrick asked. She took the test, her heart pounding as she waited for the result. When she looked at it, her eyes filled with fear. The test showed she might be pregnant. Mara couldn't believe it. She felt her whole world shatter in that moment. "How can this be?" she whispered, feeling weak and confused. Patrick stood there, watching her reaction. Then, with no shame or guilt, he said, "I'm the father of that child. Each night I put something in your drink to make you sleep. Then I would take what I wanted." Mara felt as though her heart had been crushed. She stared at Patrick in horror, realizing what he had been doing to her every night while she was asleep. She felt betrayed, scared, and very, very sad. "You're a terrible man," she cried. "How could you do this to me? You promised to take care of me and my sister." Patrick didn't care about her feelings. His face was cold as he replied, "I don't want a child, Mara. You need to get rid of it." Mara shook her head, her face full of tears. "No, I won't do what you say. This is my child, and I won't let you take it away from me. I'm tired of listening to you." Patrick's voice turned dark as he replied, "You have no choice, Mara. You live under my roof, and I make the rules. You will do what I say, or you'll regret it." Mara felt trapped and helpless. She wanted to run far away from Patrick, but she didn't know how. She thought of her family back in the village, her mother and father, especially her father, Obi, who had sent her to this nightmare. She whispered angrily, "I curse you, Patrick. And I curse my father, who sent me here without a thought for my safety." Tears streamed down her face as Mara felt the weight of everything that had happened. Her world felt dark and heavy, but deep in her heart she wished for a way out, a way to escape the terrible situation she was in. The next morning, Patrick told Mara, "Get ready. I'm taking you to the hospital." Mara's heart began to race. She remembered how her sister, Clara, had once been taken to the hospital by Patrick and had never come back. Mara looked at Patrick and said, "No, I'm not going anywhere with you." Patrick's face turned dark, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he left the room, and Mara felt relieved, thinking he had given up. She didn't know that Patrick had another plan. Later that day, Patrick brought Mara some food. She felt very hungry, and even though she was upset, she ate the meal he gave her. But soon after eating, Mara started feeling strange. Her head spun and her eyes became heavy. She tried to keep herself awake, but it was no use. Her body felt weak, and she realized that Patrick had put something in her food to make her sleepy. When Mara woke up the next morning, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She clutched her belly, frightened, and a deep sadness washed over her. She had no energy, and the pain only grew worse. Slowly, she began to realize what was happening. She was losing the baby. Tears filled her eyes as the truth sank in. She hadn't even had the chance to decide what to do, and now her child was gone. Her heart ached with sadness, and she felt more alone than ever. Patrick walked into her room and noticed her pale face and the pain in her eyes. He didn't look surprised. Instead, he just shrugged and said coldly, "Well, that solves one problem, doesn't it? I told you I didn't want any children." Mara's face twisted with anger and heartbreak. "You did this," she whispered, her voice weak but filled with anger. "You poisoned me to make me lose my child. You're cruel, Patrick. How could you do this?" Patrick just sneered. "It's better this way. I never wanted a baby, and you should be grateful I even let you stay here. Don't make this difficult." Mara could barely hold back her tears. She felt betrayed, not just by Patrick, but by everything that had brought her to this place. She thought about her father, who had trusted Patrick, and her mother, who had let her go. She thought of her sister Clara, who had gone through so much before her. Mara felt all her sadness and anger build up inside her like a storm. "I curse you, Patrick," she said, her voice trembling. "You have taken everything from me, but I won't be silent. One day, you will pay for everything you've done. You think you're strong, but your evil will catch up with you." Patrick laughed, brushing off her words. "Save your curses, Mara. You have nowhere to go and no one to help you. Remember, you're here because of your own family." But Mara didn't let his words shake her. Even though she was in pain, even though she felt alone, a small spark of hope remained inside her. She promised herself that one day she would find freedom, and Patrick would regret every cruel thing he had done. Mara sat in her room, feeling trapped and desperate. Every time she thought of a way to escape, something blocked her. Finally, she decided she had nothing to lose. She would try to persuade the security man at the gate one last time. She quietly made her way downstairs, looking around to make sure Patrick wasn't around. When she reached the gate, she saw the security man standing guard. She took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and approached him. "Please," Mara whispered, her voice shaking. "I need to get out of here. You have to help me. I'll do anything." The security man glanced at her with sad eyes, but he shook his head. Mara, I'm sorry, but I can't. Mr. Patrick gave me strict orders. He paid me well to make sure you don't leave. Mara felt her heart drop, but she wasn't ready to give up. She tried to charm him, smiling and speaking sweetly, hoping he might change his mind. She even tried to make him feel sorry for her, sharing how lonely and sad she was. But the security man wasn't moved. He shook his head firmly. You should go back inside. Don't make this harder on yourself, Mara, he said, his voice stern. I can't help you, even if I want to. Crushed, Mara returned to her room, feeling completely defeated. She had tried everything she could think of, but it was no use. She was trapped, and no one was willing to help her. Later that evening, she overheard Patrick on the phone with her parents. Mara listened closely, her heart pounding as Patrick lied to them so easily. She's doing well, Patrick said with a fake smile in his voice. She's going to school, getting top grades, and she's very happy here. You have nothing to worry about. Obi laughed happily on the other end of the call. That's my billionaire in-law. I don't regret giving my daughters to you. You're a good man, Patrick. Patrick's eyes glinted with mischief as he replied, Thank you, Obi. You're a wise man for trusting me with them. Don't worry, they're in good hands. He ended the call and laughed, a dark, mocking laugh that sent chills down Mara's spine. After the call, Patrick muttered to himself, What a foolish man. He's too greedy to see the truth, and too foolish to care about his own daughter. Mara clenched her fists, anger boiling inside her. She couldn't believe her father trusted Patrick so blindly and didn't even ask to speak to her directly. She felt completely abandoned by her family, especially her father, who only seemed to care about the money Patrick sent. Patrick's voice lowered, and Mara listened closely as he continued talking to himself. When I'm done with his daughters, maybe I'll pay a visit to his wife too, he sneered. If she's anything like him, she'll be easy to control. I'll get whatever I want from that family. Mara's eyes widened as she realized the depth of Patrick's cruelty and greed. He had no respect for her family, he only saw them as tools to use and discard. She felt a surge of anger and sadness, but also a spark of determination. She couldn't let him continue his plans. She had to find a way to protect herself and somehow warn her family. She would gather her strength and figure out a plan, even if it took all her courage. For the first time, Mara felt a small glimmer of hope deep inside, fueled by her determination to escape Patrick's cruel grasp and stop him from hurting anyone else. Back in the village, Ngozi marched up to Amaka's house, her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. She didn't even knock, just walked straight up to Amaka, who was sitting outside, quietly working. Amaka, you foolish woman, Ngozi shouted, crossing her arms as she looked down at her. You think I'll stop coming here? I won't stay silent while you and that husband of yours make terrible choices. You're both blind and greedy, letting your daughters go to that man in the city. Amaka looked up, surprised and a bit shaken, but she tried to ignore Ngozi's harsh words. She didn't want to get into a fight, especially not with someone as loud and bold as Ngozi. Ngozi wasn't finished. She leaned in closer and said, Did you know your dear foolish husband Obi came over to my house the other day? He tried to warn my husband, telling him to keep me quiet. He thinks he can scare me. Amaka's eyes widened, but she stayed silent, gripping her hands tightly. Ngozi laughed, a sharp and mocking sound. Obi is nothing but a greedy, foolish man. He doesn't care about his daughters. All he wants is money. And you let him sell your girls off like they were nothing. You're just as foolish, Amaka. Both of you are too blind to see what's happening. Amaka felt tears prickling in her eyes. She wanted to defend herself, but deep down she knew Ngozi's words hurt because there was truth in them. She had trusted Obi to know what was best for their daughters, but now she was beginning to doubt everything. Maybe you should listen for once, Amaka, Ngozi continued. Do you even know what your daughter is going through? Or do you just believe whatever Obi and that Patrick tell you? Amaka took a shaky breath, feeling unsure. She looked at Ngozi, trying to find the right words. I just wanted a better life for them, she whispered, her voice trembling. Obi said Patrick would take care of them. Ngozi shook her head in disappointment. Open your eyes, Amaka. If you don't, it may be too late for your girls. And then you'll have no one to blame but yourself and that greedy husband of yours. With that, Ngozi turned and walked away, leaving Amaka sitting there, her heart heavy and her mind filled with worry. She realized she needed to find out the truth about her daughters, no matter what it took. After Obi came home from a long day, Amaka was waiting for him. She looked worried, and her heart was heavy. "Obi," she said, her voice shaking a little, "we need to talk. Since Clara died, we haven't heard Mara's voice or seen her on a video call. I'm really worried about her. What if something is wrong?" Obi sat down in his chair and looked at her. "As far as Patrick says, she's fine. That's all that matters," he replied, sounding uncaring. Amaka felt her frustration growing. "What kind of father are you?" she exclaimed. "You don't care about your daughter. You only care about the money Patrick gives us. How can you just believe him?" Obi's face turned red with anger. He stood up and pointed a finger at her. "Don't you dare insult me, Amaka. I'm the man of this house. If you keep talking like that, I'll beat you, and no one will say anything because I have a rich in-law backing me up." Amaka stepped back, shocked and hurt by his words. "You think you can threaten me? We have not heard from our daughter for months now, and you act like it doesn't matter. If Patrick wants to take all our daughters, you would let him. They are not just things for money, Obi." Obi sneered at her. "Of course I would. They're useless to me. They're girls, Amaka. All they're good for is cooking and cleaning. If Patrick wants them, he can take them all. They belong in the kitchen, not out in the world." Amaka felt tears welling up in her eyes as she listened to him. "I regret ever marrying you, Obi. I should have married a good man, a man who cared about his family instead of this greedy man." Her voice trembled with sadness. Obi's anger flared. "If you regret it so much, then why don't you leave? No one would miss you," he shouted, his fists clenched. Amaka turned away, feeling both hurt and determined. "I won't stop until I find out the truth about Mara. I will do whatever it takes to protect her, even if I have to do it alone." Mara sat in her small room, feeling trapped and scared. She missed Clara so much and couldn't stop thinking about how her sister had been taken away from her. Patrick was always around, making her feel even more uneasy. She needed a plan to escape. One day, as she sat by the window, a thought came to her. She remembered how Patrick used to take Clara out to different places. He would let Clara go out alone because they were dating. "Maybe if I pretend to get close to him, I can trick him into letting me go out too," Mara thought. She felt a spark of hope. Mara waited for the right moment. She knew Patrick would be in a good mood after receiving a package from the village. Mara realized that the only way to get out of the house was to get close to Patrick. She decided to use his affection for her to her advantage. She started spending more time with him, flirting and acting sweet. At first it felt strange, but she told herself it was all part of her plan. As the weeks went by, Mara pretended to enjoy Patrick's company, and he began to shower her with attention. He took her to nice places, bought her gifts, and treated her like a princess. She thought if she got him to trust her, he might let her go out alone. But despite her efforts, Patrick kept finding excuses to keep her at home. "You're too young to be out there alone," he would say, brushing her off. Mara felt trapped, and her hope began to fade. She knew that Patrick was smart, and deep down he was aware of her plan. One evening, as they sat together, Mara mustered the courage to speak up. "Patrick," she said softly, "can I go out tomorrow? Just for a little while. I want to see the city and maybe go shopping." Patrick looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You know I don't want you wandering around alone. There are dangerous people out there. What if something happens to you?" Mara felt her heart sink. "But I've been good. I've been nice to you," she pleaded. "Please, I promise I won't be long. I just want some fresh air." Patrick leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You're smart, Mara. I can't just let you go. What if you try to run away?" Mara felt a wave of frustration wash over her. "I wouldn't run away. I just want to see the world outside this house," she insisted. Patrick shook his head. "I'm not taking that risk. You might think I'm just being protective, but I know you're clever. You'd find a way to escape if I let you out." Days turned into weeks, and Mara continued to try and persuade him, but Patrick remained stubborn. He would tell her how much he cared for her, but deep down she knew he was keeping her close out of fear. She felt like a bird in a cage, her wings clipped, unable to fly free. Mara sat on her bed, her heart pounding as she finally mustered the courage to confront Patrick about his cruel behavior. "Why are you treating us this way?" she asked, her voice shaking with fear. Patrick looked at her with cold eyes. "You really want to know?" he sneered. "I was supposed to marry your mother a long time ago. I traveled abroad for a better future, and when I came back, she had married your father. Ever since then, I've hated women, especially her." Mara was stunned. "So my mother knew about you all this time?" "Yes," he replied, his tone dripping with disdain. "And now, I won't let you leave this house alive. After I'm done with you, I will deal with your sisters and then your mother. I can't stand women who can't wait for their men to come back." Fear gripped Mara, sending chills down her spine. She felt completely trapped in a nightmare. That night, while Patrick relaxed in the living room, she knew she had to act. Quietly, she sneaked into Patrick's room and found his gun. It felt heavy in her hands, but she knew this was her only chance for freedom. With her heart racing, she tucked it away and returned to her room, trying to calm herself. When Patrick entered her room later, he thought he could have his way with her, just like before. But Mara was prepared. "Stay back," she shouted, her voice trembling but resolute as she pointed the gun at him. Patrick's eyes widened in surprise. "You think you can scare me with that?" He laughed, but there was nervousness in his voice. Without hesitating, Mara pulled the trigger twice. The loud gunshots rang out, echoing through the house. Patrick fell to the floor, lifeless. The security guard, hearing the commotion, rushed in and called the police. Mara stood there, shaking, but a wave of relief washed over her. Patrick was gone, and she was finally free from his control. When the police arrived, they took Mara in for questioning. She was terrified, but determined to tell her story. In court, her lawyer worked tirelessly to prove that Mara had acted in self-defense. The doctor who had treated her sister Clara testified about the terrible things Patrick had done, and other parents came forward, sharing their own experiences of fear and abuse. Now that Patrick was dead, they could speak out without fear of retribution. The judge listened carefully, and Mara felt hope rising in her heart. Finally, the judge ruled in her favor, declaring that Mara had acted out of self-defense. She was set free and awarded money from Patrick's estate to help her start anew. It felt surreal, as if she had been given a second chance at life. With the money, Mara decided to go back to school. She wanted to honor her sister and create a better future for herself. She studied hard, determined to succeed. Years later, as she stood on stage at her graduation, tears filled her eyes. She thought of Clara, of all the struggles she had faced. Mara stood in her new apartment, looking out the window at the busy streets below. After everything she had been through, she finally felt a sense of peace. Yet the memories of her past weighed heavily on her heart, especially when her parents tried to reach out. After her graduation, her parents called her several times, begging for her forgiveness. They left messages filled with regret, saying they missed her and wished they could turn back time. "Mara, we're so sorry for everything." Her mother's voice trembled on the phone. "We didn't understand what you were going through. Please come home. We need you." But Mara couldn't bring herself to forgive them. Each time she listened to their messages, her heart ached. They had sold her and her sister to a man who had caused them so much pain. How could she just forget that? The betrayal cut deep, and the wounds were still fresh. "Mara, please, we're your family. We love you," her father pleaded in one message. "We made a mistake, and we want to make it right. Please come back." Mara sighed, her emotions swirling inside her. She remembered the night spent in fear, the way Patrick had treated her, and the loss of her sister. Forgiving her parents felt impossible. She picked up her phone and typed a message, but hesitated before hitting send. Maybe one day, she thought, but that day was not today. For now, she needed to focus on herself and her future. She had worked hard to build a new life, and she wasn't ready to reopen old wounds. Mara was thriving in her new life. After graduating, she secured a job at a local non-profit organization that focused on empowering young women. Her work was fulfilling, and she enjoyed helping others find their voices. One day, she attended a conference on women's rights, eager to learn and connect with others who shared her passion. At the conference, Mara was surrounded by inspiring speakers and dedicated activists. As she moved through the bustling crowd, she noticed a young man who stood out. He was tall, with dark hair and a friendly smile. He seemed genuinely engaged in the discussions, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. His name was David. They struck up a conversation during a break, and Mara quickly discovered that he shared her passion for helping others. He worked for a non-profit focused on education, and they found themselves deep in conversation about their goals and dreams. David's enthusiasm was contagious, and Mara felt a connection forming between them. After the conference, they kept in touch. They exchanged phone numbers and began to talk regularly, sharing their daily lives, thoughts, and ambitions. Soon their conversations turned into long phone calls and messages late into the night. Mara found herself looking forward to their chats, feeling excited about what each day would bring. A few months later, David invited Mara to a community event he was organizing. It was an evening filled with inspiring speeches and discussions about education for girls. Mara attended, and they enjoyed each other's company throughout the night, laughing and engaging with others. By the end of the event, David took Mara aside and said, "I really enjoy spending time with you. Would you like to go out for dinner sometime?" Mara smiled, her heart racing. "I would love that." Their first official date was a charming little restaurant downtown. Over dinner, they talked about their dreams, childhoods, and the experiences that shaped who they were. Mara felt a spark between them, something she hadn't felt in a long time. David's kindness and humor made her feel at ease, and they connected on many levels. As the weeks turned into months, Mara and David's relationship blossomed. They explored the city together, went on hikes, and spent lazy Sundays reading books at the park. Mara had never felt so happy and understood. David was patient, always there to support her when she needed it. He respected her past and never pushed her to talk about it until she was ready. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the city, David turned to Mara with a serious look in his eyes. "I know we've only been together for a short time, but I feel like I've known you forever. You inspire me, and I want to build a future with you." Mara's heart skipped a beat. "I feel the same way, David," she admitted, her voice soft. "You've helped me heal in ways I didn't think were possible." As their relationship deepened, Mara began to imagine a future with David. One day, he took her to a beautiful park filled with blooming flowers and a serene lake. They found a quiet spot to sit and talk. David took a deep breath and said, "Mara, I want to take the next step in our relationship. I want to ask you to marry me." Mara's heart raced. "Are you serious?" "Yes," David said, pulling out a small velvet box. "I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." With tears of joy in her eyes, Mara nodded. "Yes. Yes, I will marry you." David slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, filled with happiness and excitement. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love and new beginnings. Surrounded by friends and family, Mara walked down the aisle with a smile on her face, knowing she had finally found her place in the world. David looked at her with adoration as they exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through every challenge life would bring. As they danced together at their reception, Mara felt a sense of peace and joy wash over her. She had come so far from the pain of her past and was grateful for the love and support she had found in David. Together, they were ready to face the future, hand in hand, with hope and love guiding their way. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.